Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Sammy Garrett with the Media and Content Marketing Association, launching off a series of what we hope are very significant and powerful one-on-ones with industry experts. The idea here is to catch us up on things that are affecting our day-to-day and bring a wealth of knowledge into the conversation. And today we are joined by Deborah Damore, the Postal Operations Manager at LSC Communications. Welcome back, Deborah. Thank you so much for joining us today on a very important topic on a lot of people's minds right now, which is the USPS postal rate increase. So 2021 was quite a year for the USPS in terms of changes, the PRC coming in and making adjustments to the rate increases twice, not once, but twice, most recently in August. Can you just kind of catch us up on what has happened this year and the significance of it all?
Okay, so for 2021, we did receive our annual postage increase in January as expected. And then mailers also received that second increase at the end of August. That increase was allowed due to the PIEA law from 2006 that had mandated that the PRC review the rate-making rule process and determine if it needed to be adjusted. And the PRC then released a final rule back in November, stating that the USPS could have some additional rate authorities. So those rate authorities were used this year in 2021 in the August rate case. That's how we received that well above CPI increase that nobody had budgeted for the year prior.
Right. So CPI being cost of living increase.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
It's
So
been
nobody
quite
expected that amount, and there it came in August. So as you see it, so where are we now with what the PRC has stated in terms of what we can expect going forward? Is this it for a while? Do you foresee?
Well,
Is-
we do know right now that we will not see a price increase in January of 2022. The Postal Service did announce that. And at the time of that announcement, they released their schedule for the next 3 years of price increases. They've decided to go to a 2-a-year model with a July and January increase. So that would begin with the July 2022. And then the next increase after that would be the January 2023. There's several factors that will go into the July increase. We can do a bit of forecasting, but again, some of those factors may change between now and then. Currently, some of the open ones are that there is still a case in the DC Circuit Court, industry associations in opposition of the PRC final rule, and also the USPS in opposition of the PRC final rule, because they do not believe that it gave them enough variance there and allowing them to raise rates how they need to and see fit. So the situation in that case now is that the industry has been denied on 2 times for request to stay. We did the live oral testimony on September 13th, and now the court takes that back with all of the filings and review, and it could be weeks to months before they issue a decision. So we don't know when that will come out, but what's pretty evident is that somebody will appeal, however it comes out. So it's hard to say at what percentage the industry feels they have of winning this case. So any forecasting for July, I would go ahead currently and not include the court case opportunity of us winning. I would just go forward with believing that we'll have these additional rate authorities. Another factor is that there is postal reform written in the House and in the Senate, but the bills have not gone to the full floor for votes. That needs to happen before they can go to the president's desk. If the postal reform goes through, I would expect we wouldn't have the retirement factor, but that doesn't do anything to limit the Postal Service from the density factor or the non-compensatory.
So there would still be an increase is what you're saying,
Mhm.
just not as much. Okay, so just to recap, so where the appeals are at right now, we have the industry that is saying too much. We're going over CPI,
Mhm.
and we have the USPS saying not enough, essentially.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so more on that. So the next increase in July of 2022, in your estimation, any idea what percentages we're talking about? I mean, the most recent one was over 8.7% for periodicals, correct?
Correct.
Any clue what it might be in July, just as for planning purposes?
Well, right now, the current CPI that was just released uh, October 14th or October 13th has us currently at 2.8% for
Okay,
CPI, and that's for the last couple months since the last rate case. The CPI is going to continue to build. When the Postal Service does their July increase, they'll be using up into the February CPI. So there's another 5 months yet of CPI to take. I think at that time, it's very likely if as long as the inflation continues in the same trajectory,
yeah,
it should be about 5%. So 5% CPI.
right,
There's very little banked right now that if we say the 5% CPI, and if postal reform does not pass, I would expect 1% in the retirement factor.
right,
The number where we will see some relief is in the August increase, we had a sizable density factor. The density factor is calculated based on year prior's volume over the year before.
right.
And so we know that we had declines due to COVID. So we don't expect, I mean, it's going to be less than 1%, I'd expect. So let's say if we have 1% of density, 1% of retirement, and 5% of CPI. Now,
Mhm.
the next factor is the non-compensatory, and that's a 2% surcharge for underwater products. The PRC has given the Postal Service some latitude concerning periodicals because if an entire class is underwater, it's optional for the Postal Service to impose that 2%. Whereas for a catalog, marketing mail itself covers its attributable costs, but within marketing mail, the flats and carrier route flats and parcels do not. And so it's actually required that they receive a 2% above the average class increase.
Okay.
So the Postal Service has that latitude with periodicals, but I would suspect they'll probably take it. They haven't
Mhm.
shown any indication of being truly judicious with that authority. So for July, unfortunately, it could be 7% and upwards to 9%.
Wow,
Yeah,
okay.
the July, and then when we go then to the 2 a year, that
Mhm.
January 2023 increase would only be CPI at that time. Those
Oh, so
additional,
it's maxed out at CPI, so whatever the,
yes, the
okay.
additional factors would not be able to be used again into the following July. So
So,
January would be CPI only, which at that time could be about 2 to 3%.
so in net, you're looking at potentially over 11% when you include just the CPI increase and all of the other factors that come into play, potentially.
Potentially,
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 right,
by compounded over the year. But by
right.
July, I would think maybe 7 to 9%.
Okay. Is there anything at all that folks can do to offset these increases and to perhaps fight this further?
Certainly, I would encourage everybody to contact their congressman, contact their senators.
Okay.
There are paths there to communicate with them that the postal reform bills that have not yet been passed, seek an amendment into those bills requesting that the PRC be remanded to review the current conditions of the Postal Service and reissue the final rule. Because at the time that final rule, the docket was closed in March 2020, at that time, nobody knew the full impacts that they were going to see from COVID. So that was not a known. The Postal Service's increase in parcels and package revenue was not a known factor. The $10 billion in COVID relief, the Postal Service received. So there's an opportunity to lobby locally, nationally, ask for their support. I think that there is still hope for that, because the Postal Service has continued to remain in the news from local service issues. So the Congress and senators are hearing from their constituents, who are the end consumers who are at home receiving in the mailbox. So it's time that they also hear from the business mailers, who are the actual customers to the Postal Service. So that would be my big suggestion right there.
Terrific. Thank you for that. Thank you. And along those same lines, what would you suggest? How can people offset the higher costs? What are things that they can do to perhaps offset those costs?
Okay, these may sound like basic tips that I repeat over and over, but number one, participate in some type of co-services, whether it be a co-bind operation, a co-mail operation, anything that you can do to get a finer pre-sort. That's going to reduce your postage cost. That's number one. Always make sure that your piece is designed for automation. It's great to be creative and step outside of the, but make sure you're working with your mail service provider to confirm you're going to meet automation rates, because if not, you really get hurt. Unfortunately, the Postal Service hasn't allowed any periodicals to participate in the promotions. Anybody paying at a periodical price there. But we know all of our magazine customers produce first class transactional bills. They produce direct marketing pieces. So they do some marketing of first class mail, and they should participate in any of the USPS promotions that are available at the time. The 2022 promotions have increased. 4 of the 6 promotions have increased, really from like 2% to 4% of a postage return on there. So there's some good value in those promotions. So if you haven't done those, make sure that you take a look on Postal Pro at the calendar and the requirements, and talk with your mail service provider and how you can participate and take advantage of those.
Of the promotions, but you're saying someone with a periodical permit cannot take advantage of that?
Cannot, but like I said, somebody paying periodical rates on their magazine likely is sending out first class bills.
Right.
May also be sending out marketing pieces, direct mail.
Understood. Yep.
And so on those, take what you can.
On those, take what you can. Right.
Yeah, participate there. It would be nice if they would come out with a promotion for the periodicals. It's been asked, but not yet.
Not yet. We're not there yet. Gotcha. Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, and I'm asking this, I think I already know the answer, but in terms of other services other than the USPS, do you foresee any that might come into play that could take on similar delivery?
I mean, over the years, there have been many attempts at alternate delivery companies, and some are successful. You'll see that more in a city like New York, where you have a dense population. But as to delivery to the mailbox, the United States Postal Service is the only one.
The only one that can do
who
that.
can deliver
To
there.
the mailbox.
To
That's
the
the
mailbox. Right. But I receive in my driveway now on a very regular basis sales material that used to be in the mail. And
Interesting.
Yep. It's used to come in my mailbox, and now it comes in a little plastic sleeve on my driveway. I don't know what their cost differential is, but the Postal Service should be watching that. We don't want to lose any more volume there, but
Right.
It's an option.
It's always good to know the options. Well, Deborah, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you...
21st Century Postal Service Coalition has created a web base where a user can go in, enter in their zip code of their home or their office, and it will bring up all of their local representatives and senators with a direct link to email them. So it takes all of the research and work out of it. They also offer up a couple scripts that you could look at and then personalize with your own company's message. You can reach that by going to 21 with the number 21, to 21centurypostal.org. And right on that landing page, you'll see a link to email your congressman.
Fantastic. Well, Deborah, thank you so much for joining us again. You're always welcome to come back and whenever you would like and share your experiences, and you have such a wealth of knowledge on this subject matter. So we are truly grateful. Thank you so much, Deborah. And thank you everyone at the MCMA.